Hey guys, Joe Madden here. This is Pocket with Joe. I'm joined today by Anna. She is the fantasy editor over at the NHL Fantasy. Anna, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking before that the summer has gone fast. The NHL season right around the corner. Preseason in full swing. What are you thinking so far of these preseason games?
The preseason's been pretty exciting. There's some line combinations that I'm really excited to see if they continue into the regular season that are going to be really great for some players who are looking to take that next step this next season. And we're starting to see players and new faces, Johnny Gaudreau in Columbus, Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary. So it's been fun.
What did you think of all of these off-season moves, Anna?
Lots of off-season moves, and now we're seeing a lot of teams come into that playoff contention sort of, step that we didn't see in the past few seasons. And it's going to be an exciting year. The East in particular is going to be very, very competitive. Everyone's going to be fighting to get into a playoff spot.
Oh, this is going to be a great season. I can't wait for it to kick off. We are regular season kicking off on October 7th. Anna, let's break down some of these divisions. Let's talk about who you're liking in each. We'll start with the Pacific Division. Who are you high on here?
I think it's Alberta's year. I know you live in Alberta, so this is probably exciting to hear, but I think Western Canada is putting Canada back on the map in terms of the NHL right now. And I'm liking the Edmonton Oilers. I'm liking the Calgary Flames. Honestly, in my opinion, it's a coin flip between the two, who's standing out for me the most in that division. And I think both could go very, very far, maybe even all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals this season. So it's going to be exciting to watch. I know Edmonton really addressed their issues on the back end, bringing in Jack Campbell, who's a big addition. Calgary started off this off season. It sounded like everything was going downhill, but they came back and maybe they're stronger than they were even last season with the additions they have with Mackenzie Weegar and Jonathan Huberdeau, and now Nazem Kadri rounding out that strong top six for the Flames. So I really like both of those teams.
Yeah, I definitely think Calgary is a better improved team over last year. Looks completely different. Those starting lineups definitely will be. And then you're right, Jack Campbell added to Edmonton. They've addressed their issues in the goalie situation, and they were able to keep some of their key players. And Connor McDavid, we know, MVP kind of guy. So it should be a great battle here in the Pacific. Is there anyone in the Pacific Division that you kind of go, they might struggle this year? I know the Golden Knights had issues last season, especially health-wise. I think if this team stays healthier with new coaching, they could be better. We know the Kings have been competitors. Between the Sharks and Canucks and the Kraken, we saw struggles out of all of those. Anyone that you're really thinking will be low here?
I mean, it is just becoming more and more competitive, but I think honestly, all of the teams in the Pacific have something to at least be excited about heading into this season. So I don't want to say anyone's standing out as a lower end of this particular division, because there's exciting things, like I just said, for like every single team. You mentioned Vegas's coaching change. They have Jack Eichel. A full season of Jack Eichel is going to be awesome for Vegas, and I'm a huge fan of Bruce Cassidy's coaching system, so he could be just what this team needs. But again, they're competing with Calgary. They're competing with Edmonton. Los Angeles just brought on Kevin Fiala, who is a standout in my opinion, especially down the stretch last season with the Minnesota Wild. So he's going to be a huge addition for them. The Vancouver Canucks are a pretty solid team all the way through. Brock Besser injured recently, but he's not expected to miss too much of the season, so he'll be back towards the end of October most likely. So they have a pretty solid group within them as well. And then you move on to the Seattle Kraken, who I think are so much improved after this past offseason. I mean, they're going to have a full year of Matty Beniers, who had a phenomenal debut into the NHL, the best debut I guess you could ask for towards the end of last year. He's going to be probably on their first line with Oliver Bjorkstrand coming over from Columbus, and Andre Burakovsky, two-time Stanley Cup champion, now coming over from Colorado. So that's a pretty good top line. I think that's a top line that can compete against a lot of different teams in the NHL. So Seattle has something to be excited about. Then you take a look at Anaheim. They have my particular Calder favor this year with Mason McTavish, obviously standing out in that World Juniors tournament for Canada, helping Canada clinch the gold in the World Juniors. He's going to be maybe playing on a line with Trevor Zegras, which is going to be very exciting. So Anaheim has something to be excited about. And San Jose is always one of those teams where they get discounted a bit, but they have one of the best players in the NHL, in my opinion, Meyer. Timo Meyer is always putting up shots, always top 5 in that category, finds the back of the net. He knows how to produce, and he creates a lot of secondary scoring for everyone else on the Sharks. So I think everyone in the Pacific Division has something to be excited about, but I do think that Edmonton and Calgary are just a little step above the rest.
Yeah, definitely don't sleep on the Seattle Kraken this upcoming season, you guys. And Anna, I love how you bring the positive spin out of each of these teams. I know you've got a lot of fans really happy out there to hear those positives for their teams. Let's move on to the Central Division. This is one. We've got the Colorado Avalanche in this division. Can anyone take these guys out?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think it's Colorado and everyone else in the Central, in my opinion, just because they're bringing back their core group into this next season as well. They have some questions on the goaltending end, but still, I mean, Nathan McGinnon, Gabriel Landeskog, whenever he's back into action, Cale Makar, they just have a very, very solid group. So I think the Central is their division to lose, basically, but I think the real competition comes after the Colorado Avalanche. We're trying to figure out who's going to get that second and third spot in the Central. And the Minnesota Wild did lose Kevin Fiala, but Kevin Fiala largely played on a different line than Kirill Kaprizov, who was dominant last year. Could be a dark horse pick for maybe the Hart this season even. So I'm not all out teasing some futures here, but I'm not all out on the Minnesota Wild just yet. Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the best goalies you could have in terms of reliability, just a veteran presence for that team on the back end. So the Minnesota Wild are in the mix. The St. Louis Blues have a lot of young talent like Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, who stood out to me last season, who could play a huge role this season. They still have stars like Vladimir Tarasenko on their squad, so they're in the mix. Jake Ottinger from the Dallas Stars is keeping Dallas in the mix.
Ottinger is incredible.
He's incredible. He is like the most exciting young goalie to watch in the NHL right now, in my opinion. I mean, that last game against the Flames in the playoffs was absolutely unreal, and he was dominant throughout the one series he played in the playoffs. So he's keeping Dallas in the mix, and then the Nashville Predators always find a way to sneak into the playoffs, and they have Roman Josi, who came so close to the 100-point mark last season for a defenseman. He's still there. They have Philip Forsberg again this year, so I mean, they have a lot of key pieces as well. So then you see, like, after Colorado, there's a couple of teams who could sneak in. Got to keep giving Canada some love. The Winnipeg Jets are also in the mix. I mean, Kyle Connor is one of probably, if not the most underrated, one of the most underrated players in the NHL. I mean, he can put up those goals. So you kind of see, like, every division, I'm able to list positives for most of the teams in there because it's just getting so competitive.
It absolutely is. I'm so glad Ottinger stayed in Dallas. I had fears that Edmonton was going to try to go after him. Fortunately for us Calgary Flames fans, that did not happen because Ottinger really is hard to play against, especially for the Calgary Flames. They can't find a way to get past him. What did you think of the move of Darcy Kuemper out of Colorado?
So I really like him on the Washington Capitals. The Washington Capitals and the Pittsburgh Penguins have somehow managed to keep both of their Stanley Cup winning cores together for all of these seasons. And I think Darcy Kuemper is a great addition for the Capitals, who were kind of, I guess, jumping between Vitek Vanacek now on the Devils and Ilya Samsonov now on the Maple Leafs last season. But they have a go-to starter in Darcy Kuemper who can really help them make the playoffs once again. So I think Washington's another team that we just can't, I guess, go out on just yet, even though they are getting a little bit older. Every year people are like, when are the Penguins, when are the Capitals going to be done with their era? But I don't think it's anytime soon. So great move for Washington. I think Colorado is definitely going to feel a little bit of a loss, but you never know. Georgiev could stand out. He's never been given a full-blown shot in the NHL just yet, so we haven't seen his full potential, so you never know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, amazing to see what happens when those guys are given that shot. Let's talk about the Met division since we jumped into the Washington Capitals here. What do you think of the Hurricanes? Do you think the Hurricanes are going to come in strong? You think the Rangers? Where are you looking for this one?
I really like the Carolina Hurricanes this year. I think this is their season. They had a great offseason as well. Max Pacioretty injured right now, but likely to come back some point this season, and he's going to be a huge addition for the Carolina Hurricanes. And then on their back end, they have Brent Burns, who is going to be a massive addition to their defense, and him playing with Jacob Slavin, who's a good playoff performer who needs to find a way to bring that playoff performance into the regular season, could be hugely beneficial for the Carolina Hurricanes. Frederik Andersen, top 3 in save percentage. He's a great goalie. If he's staying healthy, the Carolina Hurricanes have such a strong team from top to bottom. So I really like them in the Metro. I really like them in the whole league, to be honest, this year. I think they're serious President's Trophy candidates.
Okay, it's going to be a nice competition in there as well. Brings us to the last one, the Atlantic Division. We know there are some really strong teams in here. People are high on the Maple Leafs coming into this season. Are you high on the Maple Leafs here?
It's tough. It's tough. I am from Toronto, so I love Toronto, giving Toronto all my love right now. But the Maple Leafs are in the most difficult position they've been in for the past few seasons. I mean, all of the teams in the Atlantic are so much stronger than they were before. We're going to be competing to get into the playoffs this year. The Ottawa Senators are much improved. They have Claude Giroux. They have Alex DeBrincat. And then the Detroit Red Wings improved over this offseason as well, bringing in David Perron, Ville Husso. So there's so many pieces that are now in the Atlantic Division, and the Maple Leafs are going to maybe lose some games they would have won in the past few years against competitors in their own division. And they have a lot of question marks in their goaltending. They had Frederik Andersen. They had Jack Campbell. Now they're left with a tandem of Ilya Samsonov and Matt Murray, both of which have done well on their respective teams only because their teams were so strong. Neither of them have really been the go-to standalone starter and made a name for themselves in the NHL yet. They've always been a part of a tandem, whether it was Ilya Samsonov with Vitek Vanacek, Matt Murray when he was in Pittsburgh with Marc-Andre Fleury. So they're going to be with each other now, and it's going to be interesting of whether they can actually carry the Maple Leafs to some wins or whether that's going to be the reason maybe the Leafs might not even make the playoffs this season.
Now, I know you have put out your predictions for who's going to take the Stanley Cup, who's going to take the conferences. If people are looking for that information, where can they find it, Anna?
Yeah, NHL.com is going to be coming out with our list. Me and other writers for NHL.com have all submitted who we think is going to win the Stanley Cup this year, who we think is going to make the Stanley Cup final, some awards predictions, and the Conn Smythe winner even. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. But I can tease it a little bit and say I think that the Carolina Hurricanes are definitely the team to watch this season.
Yeah, they are the team to watch for sure, Anna. It was an absolute pleasure having you here on Puck It with Joe. Can you let everyone know where to follow you and where to follow all of your work?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It's always a great time to be on with you. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Anna Noel Dua. You can see all of our content that we create for NHL Fantasy at nhl.com/fantasy and subscribe to the Fantasy on Ice podcast, available wherever podcasts are found.
Anna, it was an absolute pleasure. Keep crushing it. Can't wait for those articles to come out. Thank you so much.
Have a good one. Have a good hockey season.
You too. Thank you.